I woke with dust clinging to my lips and a sharp ache burning through my side. The kind of pain that drags a man back from darkness, whether he's ready or not. The sky above me was pale, just beginning to glow with early light. But before I could gather my thoughts, I felt a weight pressed down on my chest. My breath caught. An Apache woman was on top of me, her knees firm on either side of my ribs, her body low and steady, a knife raised in her hand. Her long black hair fell forward, shadowing her face, but her eyes were clear and fierce, locked onto mine with a warning that froze me where I lay. Instinct told me to reach for my gun, yet her free hand covered my mouth before I could move. Her grip strong, deliberate. "Quiet," she whispered, her accent rough but controlled. "Do not move." Before fear could turn to panic, the reason revealed itself. From beyond the rocks came the dull thud of hooves and the scrape of boots against stone. Voices followed, sharp and impatient, the sound of men hunting rather than traveling. I felt her body lower closer to mine, shielding me completely, her back tense like a drawn bow. Every shallow breath I took brushed against her palm, and I realized she was counting them, keeping them slow, keeping me alive. As shadows passed near our hiding place, her knife remained steady, not for me, but for anyone who might look too closely. Lying there, pinned beneath her, memory flooded back in broken pieces. The burning wagon, the smell of smoke, her wrists raw from rope. I remembered cutting her free, lifting her onto my horse, riding hard until the world blurred, and pain finally pulled me under. I had thought I was saving her. Now, as she risked herself to hide me from men who would kill us both, I understood how wrong I'd been. The patrol moved on after long, heavy minutes that felt like hours. Only when the sounds faded did she lift the knife and ease back, though she didn't rise right away. Her eyes searched the land before meeting mine again. "You wake," she said softly. "Good. You could have left," I murmured, my voice weak. She shook her head once, calm and certain. "You saved my life," she said. "So I guard yours. That is why I was on you." By the time the sun climbed higher, the danger felt farther away, though neither of us truly relaxed. She walked ahead of me as we moved through the rocks, light on her feet despite the long night, pausing often to listen to the land itself. I noticed how she never turned her back fully, always keeping me within her sight, not out of suspicion, but something closer to responsibility. When my steps faltered, she slowed without a word, letting me catch my breath, her patience quiet and steady. We stopped near a narrow ravine where water still lingered in the shade. She knelt, filled her hands, and brought them to me before tending to herself. Only then did she speak again, telling me her name was Nailin. It suited her, short, sharp like a blade. She explained that she had been taken while scouting alone, ambushed by men who saw profit where they should have seen warning. They had planned to sell her once they reached the border towns. I listened, anger tightening my jaw, knowing how close I'd come to letting that happen simply by arriving too late. As we rested, I asked why she stayed so close while I slept, why she hadn't put distance between us once the patrol passed. She studied the horizon before answering, as if weighing each word. She told me enemies came when men were weakest, when pain and dreams made them slow. While I slept, she watched. Not just the trail, but the wind, the birds, the dust. She said it as if it were obvious, as if guarding a wounded stranger were the most natural thing in the world. As the hours passed, I began to see she wasn't just surviving, she was calculating. She knew which paths would hide our tracks, which stones to step on, which to avoid. When she noticed blood seeping through my shirt, she tore a strip from her own clothing without hesitation and bound the wound. Her hands firm but careful. There was no fear in her touch, no awkwardness, only purpose. That night, as the fire burned low, she finally shared the truth behind her watchfulness. Her husband had been killed by men who hunted people for coin, the same kind that still roamed these lands. Since then, she trusted no sleep left unguarded. I realized then that the moment I'd woken beneath her wasn't one of threat, but of trust. She had chosen to protect me the way she once protected her own. And in that choice, teaching me that survival out here wasn't just about strength. It was about who stood watch when the world went quiet. The third day brought trouble with it. riding in on the wind long before we saw any sign of men. Nalin stopped suddenly, her hand lifting in a silent command, her head tilting as she listened. I heard it a moment later, the faint jingle of metal, the careless sound of someone who believed the land belonged to him. She guided me off the main trail and into a line of scrub and stone, her movements quick but controlled, as if she'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in her mind. The man found us anyway. He stepped into the open with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, a rifle slung loose at his side and confidence heavy in his stride. He knew who she was the moment he saw her markings, and I knew it too by the way his gaze lingered, measuring value rather than danger. He spoke of bounties and whispered deals, of how information could be worth more than bullets if sold to the right people. His words curled the air with threat, though his tone stayed friendly, like we were all part of the same ugly business. I felt Nalin shift beside me, her posture tightening. She didn't answer him, didn't even look afraid. When he took a step closer, her hand moved. It was fast, almost graceful, and by the time his smile faded, he was on the ground, breath leaving him in a sharp, broken gasp. The land swallowed the sound, as if it approved. She didn't linger, didn't celebrate. She simply stood there, chest rising and falling, eyes distant, as though she was somewhere else entirely. When it was over, she walked away from the body and sat on a rock, her shoulders trembling despite her effort to stay still. I joined her slowly, unsure of what to say. After a long silence, she spoke, her voice low and steady, though pain threaded every word. Men like him had taken her husband years ago, she said, hunted him as if he were an animal, left him to die in the dust. Since that day, she had sworn never to be taken again, never to let such men decide her fate. Listening to her, I understood that saving her from the wagon hadn't ended her battle. It had merely crossed our paths. The reason she'd stayed, the reason she'd guarded my sleep so fiercely, wasn't only about debt or tradition. It was about choice. She refused to be powerless again, refused to let fear write her story. And by standing beside me, by fighting for us both, she was reclaiming something those men had stolen long ago, proving that survival could still be an act of defiance. By the fourth morning, the land began to change, the harsh rocks giving way to familiar trails that Nalin followed without hesitation. She moved with a quiet certainty now, as if each step carried her closer to something she had long imagined but never fully believed she would reach again. I could tell we were nearing Apache territory by the way she watched the hills, not with fear but with recognition, her pace slowing as memories caught up with her. When we reached a high ridge, she stopped. Below us stretched a wide valley dotted with mesquite and cottonwood, the smoke of distant fires curling gently into the sky. Home, she stood there. For a long moment, the wind pulling at her hair, her face unreadable. I waited, sensing this was a moment that didn't belong to words. At last she turned to me, her eyes searching my face, as if weighing something far heavier than distance. "You can go from here," she said quietly. There was no command in her voice, only an offering. She explained that once she crossed that ridge, her life would change again. Her people would ask questions, old wounds would open, and choices would have to be made. She did not know what place, if any, there would be for a man like me among them. I understood then that she wasn't pushing me away. She was being honest, in a way few people ever are. I told her I hadn't expected anything, that riding beside her had already given me more than I'd set out to find. She studied me for a long moment, then stepped closer and placed her hand against my chest, right over my heart. The gesture was brief but heavy with meaning. She said waking me that first morning hadn't been planned, that she had climbed over me because danger demanded it, but staying, guarding me night after night, that had been her choice. For a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. Then she turned and began walking toward the valley, her figure growing smaller with each step. I didn't follow, and I didn't call out. I knew some bonds weren't meant to be tied tight. They were meant to be remembered. As I watched her disappear into the land that shaped her, one truth settled deep inside me. I hadn't just rescued an Apache woman from captivity. In my weakest moment, she had chosen to protect me, and that choice would follow me long after the trail carried us in different directions.